Hi everyone, hope you can hear me. Great. Welcome to the session on SEO for web designers and web developers in 2016. We have Navneet Kaushal. He is the founder and CEO of Page Traffic. Page Traffic is a top-ranked SEO company founded in year 2002. And Navneet's expertise has established Page Traffic as one of the most awarded and successful search marketing agencies in the world. Welcome, Navneet. I just hand over the session to you. If anyone has a query, you can just type down in the question panel on the right hand side. We'll take up all your queries after the presentation. There you go, Navneet.
Hello? Yeah, hi. Thank you, Divya. So we're going to talk about a little bit about SEO. As people have seen, as we have seen, there has been a lot of changes in SEO. But most of the time, when people talk about SEO changes, they talk about the changes which has happened in the off-page, like Penguin or Panda. But here, I'm going to discuss some of the interesting the way websites which are built today, not of yesterday's, and how we can optimize these and show them in how we can better get the rankings out of those. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those, and let's start with something. So let's see, it's important. I understand most of you wouldn't know this, but it's just that to create that why this SEO is important. I'm going to talk about this. Search for most of us means Google. Let's see number of why SEO is important. Just let's see the average number of searches in Google, which Google last reported in 2012 was 3 billion searches per day, which we believe has now moved to 5 billion searches per day. So that's a huge number we are talking here about. And there is just a growth of Google queries in last 5 years, which we can see here. Interestingly, not worldwide, but Google has a 97% market share alone in India, which is huge. So for us, if of course anything which when we talk about search, it means Google. So most of our guidelines, good thing is most of the guidelines and most of the way Google indexes the sites, how it works for the Yahoo and Bing, in fact Bing as well. Search still brings the most highly qualified traffic across all the channels. Search is something which brings the best traffic, and if you need to get anything out of compared to a digital medium, search is still number one. Let's see how SEO from business perspective. Why is it important? Of course, helps. Why is it important? More in the context of today's world, it helps you create a better website. So if I have a website which is not search engine friendly, because Google says anything which is not user friendly is something which is not search friendly. So it helps me create a better website. Brings in qualified traffic, so that's another way, because people are searching through Google for a specific keyword. They comes to you, the traffic is pre-qualified. It's not that it's like which is from some different referral or something. Of course, help us create a better content, because content is the king, as we know, and SEO is very much centric towards and has gone towards content marketing. So it helps us create better content. Of course, the best part about digital and SEO is it is measurable and actionable. So those are the things which are important here. Just to see some of the things which we know, some of the things which you people could understand and see. Did you know? Most of these we know, but it's just sometimes we forget, so we have to understand this. Search Flash and JavaScript content, though they can read JavaScript content a bit. Now I'm going to talk in detail about it later, but just to reiterate, the Flash cannot be read by them. Again, there are methods, but Flash is almost dead. None of us uses. It's actually quite easy to exclude certain pages from search engine result by using a simple command in robot.txt file. Google checks for duplicate content on your website. Google has sophisticated algorithm which could catch, which is known as Google Panda. So that is also something have to be seen. The web page's name also influences the rate of optimization for certain keyword. I would like to emphasize here, it's the web page name, not the website name. So website name, when we call it, it's called as an which used to be an exact match is not something which is now very much any relevant here. So the web page, the website, but the web page is relevant here. A common website mistake which we have is that each page of the our website, most of the time the developer working keeps as just the same site. So that's one of the common mistakes. Interestingly, Google moves the website down in the search result when an excessive number of keywords are used. So if you are using too many keywords, stuffing your page with too many things, there are chances that Google might move your site down in the results. So it's important to not stuff your website with keywords. A page load time influences the ranking of a website in search engine. We're going to talk about this also. In 2014 August, Google made an algorithm about search speed, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Search engine looks at how much code you use. Therefore, tables, inline styles not only make your code less synoptic, but also could affect search engine ranking. So the more inline code I have, the heavier the content, heavier the page becomes, slower it becomes, the ranking is going to affect. So that's the kind of effect which has. It's quite easy to exclude certain pages from search engine, as I discussed. Let's see some of the search engine signals which recently have changed, and some of the signals from a point of view of the development. Ranking signal in April 2000, August 2014, Google came with the sites which have an HTTPS are going to get a little bump in the rankings. We haven't seen that as a proof, but yes, HTTPS better secured. There are less chances of hacking, so that's something people should move. Again, if your site has a malware or hack, it will start showing you that site is hacked as a label in their search results. And if you do not do anything, it might completely remove your site from the index. So it becomes important that the sites which you are working on are having registered with Google Search Console called earlier, so you do not have any issues when people you get any alert. So it's important to have your website registered with Google Search Console. It's simple. We'll talk about it later. Ranking signal, just a summary. It's important to either have your site on SSL or a TSL. You could have a web application firewall, because hackers can inject malware and Google will find and demote your site. You can have a DOS protection, but the DOS protection is important because if Google can't access your website, so how would it index? Another signal which came in 2010 was the Google Webmaster Central signal, which was something related to the site speed, and Google rewards faster loading websites. So that we have seen that Google is reporting faster website. So that's something. Now, just looking at the technical site speed, technical hacks that boot your speed. These are just some of the ways you can boost your site speed. So you could compress your pages. Minification, very common method we use when a client comes to us. You could minify CSS, JavaScript, HTML. Response time for you to have a faster response time, and that also helps. And the second is when you have an image optimization is important. You could use browser caching, and you can see how JS and CSS are served. You can use asynchronous scripts. You can use CDN, which are very, very popular. You can use better header and caching. You can use latest server technologies. That's something also we can use here. Just to reiterate what we are going into, even a basic understanding of what to look for in a technical SEO can get you far. So many people today focus too heavily on off-page SEO, but if a site is technically flawed, it won't matter how many links you have or how good the content is. In my experience, a lot of customers comes to us and say we want their rankings, but a lot of time they are clients. For example, we have a client in Jordan who is a big travel portal, and his site is all getting indexed wrong because the dog done a lot of wrong, and the company is investing the same site in 10 more languages. We've been insisting them that why are you making it in 10 languages? Let's fix one at least, but they know it's important for us to have it, because if the visitor come, they should be served, let's say, Russian or Spanish or Chinese. But I go back again and tell me, but look how many people are coming to your website. If nobody's coming to your website and you think it's important for you to build a correct website in different languages, just wasting too much time on that. Just stop for 10 days, drop your pen, do nothing, but just fix the basic things on your website, which is technical SEO. How important is technical SEO? It's indexation. So we 01. So you have an indexation plus relevancy plus popularity. Removing any hurdles to the crawler is a key for perfect indication. We're going to talk about some of the way you can crawl. Of course, map your site architecture in accordance with the semantic verticals. balance the quality and aging to link graph. So this is how you can do. So indexation is technical solution that respect SEO best practices. SEO architect match to the semantic verticals. So for example, if I have a e-commerce site and I'm selling mobile phone as well as, let's say I'm selling a laptop as well. So the mobile is going to be one semantic vertical and the laptop is going to be another semantic vertical. Both semantic vertical should run separately, should be linked separately. The inner pages should be in the same folder. For example, a mobile should be in mobile and a laptop should be in the laptop one. And that's very important. And if you and of course kind of preserves content and interlinking forever. So it's important you link them in between them, but do not link. Let's say if you have a mobile and you have an iPhone and you have a laptop and you have a Lenovo, it doesn't make sense to link Lenovo to Apple. It does make sense to link mobile to the Lenovo, but not interlinking if it's not related. That's something that's important to clear out. Relevance, optimizing keywords in silos. That's what I was talking about. So you silos is the mobile is one silo, the laptop is another silo. So you optimize keyword for that particular silo. Do not mix them. And of course, internal linking that helps amongst the relevant pages or the silos. Popularity is there, which of course we talk about links. So you got to diversify links. We're not going to talk any links beyond this point here. So these are the three core principles. Now let's see what is common in the sites built today. Sites built today. The HTML of the page is loaded into the browser. So you see a lot of websites which are interactive, they load faster. So we're going to see what is common in site. So the site is, you have an initial page which loads, and then the JavaScript is where loads additional content onto the page. So when a JS is loading an additional content onto the page, then practically what we have is almost no content. So we're going to talk about this. Now the JS is getting very popular JavaScript. So there are a variety of JavaScript frameworks. One is asynchronous, one is jQuery. Angular is very popular these days. We're gonna talk about, so Angular JS is something where a lot of clients comes with a website built in Angular JS, and these are some of the popular backends which are used at bigger websites. We're gonna talk about Angular because since for our developers. So if you are building a site in Angular and you would like it to be if you are building an Angular JS and you are coming to make the device using, show that each site. Instead of serving the snapshot, I'm going to talk. So I'm going to talk more about. So instead of serving some of these, I am going to talk more about these links which we are talking about here. In terms of if you are building a site in JS, so instead of serving the snapshots, you could include the requested URL. There are services like prerender.io. You can allow JS to be rendered by Google, and we're going to talk more into details how it goes. Let's say if you are building a site in React.js, the choice remains pretty much same. Serves the same content to a search engine as you would like user in a pre-rendered format. You can use the Browsify to turn your JS. It's an application through which you can use you turn your JS into an NPM module and run it on your server. Alternatives, of course, allow Googlebot to index the sites on its own. Now, let's see. This was some of the situations. What we can we do with it? So let's look at some of the situations which today's websites are built on and see how these things are working on. Okay. So for example, today's website, this is one of the dynamic content website. The content on this page is dynamic. For example, if you look at this bigger page, all it has is 69 line of code, no content in source code. So for a search engine to crawl, it needs code and you can't find any code in it. So that becomes one problem. Infinite scrolling. So this is another one where you start seeing infinite scrolling. So just like the Pinterest. So I'll just share Pinterest some example. So if you go in Pinterest and you scroll down, it's an endless scrolling. However, infinite scrolling is what we call. But when you go to the source view code, you will only find first 24 pins which are in the source code. Rest there are not. So this is something of interest here. There is another one, single page application, which we call SPA. So this is just one page. You keep on clicking and it doesn't move from. It just interacts on one page. So just going into it. So when we talk about single page application, they update the page without a refresh. So basically, no content is coming. Everything is being served through a JavaScript. So that's something which is happening here. So updates the page without a refresh. And let's say how robots view the site. And this is something interesting. John Muller, who is the Google Web Trends analyst, he talked about it, and I'll quote him: "We'll try to act like a browser, execute the JavaScript as much as possible, and index the page based on the making it's possible for a lot of the JavaScript framework to essentially work by default without having to do anything." And he says that, and I quote, "I think at the moment we are not quite there where I would say you could do whatever you want in JavaScript and Google will figure out." So although Google says it can crawl JavaScript, but then it says they are not quite there. So when it says what they are not quite there, let's see what it means. So, sir, Google can't read JavaScript. There was in March, in my last year, there was a test done on search engine land. There was a study published, and we found that the Google bot can't crawl JavaScript. So let's see what problems it has. Imagine the scene: you are embarking on a first movement of website diagnosis for your SEO. You disable JavaScript in your toolbar and off, because normally how we see if a page can be indexed or not, we just go through a JavaScript and see if we disable the JavaScript in our toolbar. Of course, we will be using a web developer toolbar, and we see what kind of problems we can see. Let's see how this is. So this is when a JavaScript is not there. This is a Pinterest page. So this is kind of a message you get. And this is another page which you see. So this is so you come across a page like this, which watch when you were hoping a page like this. So with the JavaScript disabled, it's like this. So which page you were expecting it to be like this. Or even something like this for a rebuildable sound select. The page is like this, but it's actually coming up. This is how Google is also seeing it, or the crawlers are also seeing it. And finally, when you go at this type of a page, another example. So when you are expecting it to see like this page, you turn up looking at like page like this. And so let's see, going back to the example where we're seeing in a single application page, what the search engine sees, this is how Google bot see the page. So it's actually not seeing it, don't match, and what we see is it's not matching with what we see. So this is how a visitor to your website would have seen the page, and this is how Google bot saw the page. The main content is gone, so you don't see any content, and it's just a blank with just a pop-up of that. So that's something we can see. And navigation also is gone if you see in the page. So web apps, so there is another web app like this, or these are web apps which requires input. So search engines are not going to go and type in a content on their own. So it's important. So then the challenge becomes, how do we optimize these pages? So what do I do with this? The search engine comes to it, doesn't know what he's supposed to do with this. So just an example, this is what you type. So for example, you type Seattle and you see Seattle hotel near space, hotels in downtown. You choose for a date, which dates you want the hotel to be. There is no way search engines would be able to do that. Search engine won't be able to drill down to a particular city, not choose a date, and not go to this URL. So this virtually impossible as of now. However, there is a solution we're going to discuss. Another problem with this is it's not so good for navigation when you are going through these pages to these many. And so you might have often as a problem finding all the pages. Often as finding all the pages. Some pages are not indexed or rankings fell because of these reasons. Even if these pages are, site is dynamic, and even if you have some pages not dynamic, don't expect it to rank well unless you have fixed the problem at its core. Let's see what we can do about it. So when you are building a site which is Ajax heavy or which is JavaScript heavy, the one thing is which Google Webmaster Tool has a very good developer section where you could go. So you have a very good guide. So you could use and follow the best practices out there. What interestingly comes out of this practices is for now is this HTML snapshot, which again is taken from Google. So crawler maps. So let's see from 1 to 6. Crawler maps from a pretty URL to an ugly URL. That's how it says. Then crawler goes to the crawler requests the ugly or a dynamic URL. Server maps the ugly URL to pretty URL, and server creates HTML snapshots and give it to the server, and that's how the crawling becomes. So this is something which Google has explained you could do with the JavaScript. So how does this affect your SEO? It's pretty obvious. You need a solution. So when you make a heavily JS dependent website crawlable, it's really important for us to understand how we can help search engines. Now Google and Bing, as I said, support most of the common directives. So Google and Bing supports a directive that allow web developer to serve HTML snapshots of your JS heavy content via modified URL structure. Specifically, as I spoke with before, the escaped fragment, a parameter that replaces the hash tag. So just an example, in a web application, a parameter which looks like this, And if you look in this page, here's what you get. So you'll either see it straight away or you won't. So if you use those type of command, you could start seeing this type of templates. Second thing is make sure no files are blocked. Previously when we were doing, it's an interesting fact. When we were doing SEO, most of the time, we were asking our designers or developers to block the JS in the robots. That's what we were doing. But then Google start coming out with the alerts that you are blocking the JS and we are not able to fetch the page properly. And that becomes, so we realized that it's no longer supported, no longer wise. Google came with the guidelines that we should not block the JS. So then we made sure that so you have to make sure no files are blocked and using as and you can do that by using fetch as Google Doc. So that's something you can see there. So as I said, if you go to a Google Webmaster Tool, very, very important for you to sign up for Google Webmaster Tool. If you go to Master Tool, you make sure and actually files are blocked. You can actually test if something is blocked by a robot.txt tester. Create browsable pathways. So for example, if you see this is the website where we're talking about not many can search or not many can click on it. So this is a create a browsable pathway. So for example, you could type something like this popular searches and you can have Seattle hotels, San Francisco hotels, Washington hotels. That's another way of creating a pathway. So you just have a neat page like this, but you could always have a browsable paths of popular searches. Let's see how it goes forward. So you have a browsable path. For example, when I click on Seattle hotels, this is how it takes me to this page. In this page, you will see there are a couple of hotels. Then there is a section which is discount in Seattle. So there is another way of going to this particular deal. And if you see there are popular hotel types. So this is how you could, I'm creating a browser pathway which is clickable. And if you see on the top, there is a description. When it comes to Seattle hotels, you'll find no shortage of style and comfort. That's kind of a content which is put up there, making it like a unique page. So that's something which helps. And but the question comes, what about not so popular cities? So there might be cities I could have 10, 20 or 30 searches, but what if I am covering almost 100 cities or 200 cities? What should I do about those? What should I do about the not so popular cities? So let's see what we should be doing about the not so popular cities. First of all, ensure you create an XML sitemap search engine, because XML sitemaps helps find all the pages. So it becomes important for you to have it, all the pages should be submitted by. Now it's important to understand, most of the time people think that if I have created an XML sitemap and submitted, all the pages will be crawled. No, that's not correct. Google prefers first to discover and crawl all the pages which it can crawl through your website, and second it takes the XML sitemap. However, if you have no internal linking to a particular page, Google is actually not going to index these pages. So whether they are popular or not, the internal linking somewhere should be to those pages. So what I'm practically saying is they should not be orphaned out there. So as I said, so if you could get more pages crawled, more pages get indexed, and you would get more traffic. That's what you can do. Another one, golden rule, one file path per specific content piece. This is another way why we see a lot of problem with Google. So for example, duplicate, there are many sort forms, sorting, categories, non-existing frame content. So this is something you can see here. I'll just share. So assuming that anything in DOM is technically accessible to modern search bots, even though it might not pass rules, that's something important. So you could Robert, and here it's important. robot.txt disallowed does not guarantee that your page will not appear in results. Google may still decide based on external information such as incoming links that is relevant. So if you wish to explicitly block a page from being indexed, you should instead use the no index robot meta tag or an X robot tag HTTP header. In this case, you should not disallow the page in the robots.txt because the page, because in this case, because the page must be crawled in order for the tag to be seen. So if, just to summarize this, if you want particular page dead and gone from Google, you should block it in the page label, in the page code, either by a meta tag or by a X robot tags. You could block a section, but it's not going to be effective if somebody directly links to that page. So you might find that page listed in Google and there might be says robot.txt block. So Google will show a text label, but important for you, if you don't want that text label to show, you don't want that page to show at all, use the X robot or a meta tag. And when both robot.txt and meta tag robot together, it could be disastrous if you change something and something goes off. Best to block with meta robots. So I would say if you have to block a page, block with meta robots and delete via Google Webmaster Tool or a Google Search Console. And important, whatever you delete from Google via Google Search Console, it only remains there for 6 months. So it's important to renew it every 6 months. And of course, X-Robot tag can be used. Good thing is it could be used in the PDF. So sometimes we might have a PDF version of the page. So let's say sometime you say print this document or download this file. You might have a manual which is available online and is a PDF version also, and it might create duplicacy. So you could actually block those PDF by putting an X-Robot tags in the document. So that's a useful thing which we find is good to block any of the unwanted pages. Second thing, do not print session IDs parameters on file path in code. So it's important to pass session ID via file paths. Do not hard code them into the code, but rather than pass them as a parameter. So that's something important. You could use cookies to pass session info rather than anything else. That's the simplest way. If no other alternatives, you could block these parameters via Google Webmaster Tool, though we have seen it's not a very effective thing to block them through Google Search Console. But if you don't have, you could definitely do that. It's better than not blocking them anyway. Let's look at the URL structure, something very interesting we're going to share here. File paths can be flat, deep, or with several parameters. If needed, all seems to work fine. So there is no particular specific way how you should be having. But what is important is that you have a clear hierarchy in terms of directory structure. Use internal links. So as I said, you could talk about the mobile and an Apple iPhone, or you could talk about the laptops and the Lenovo. So that's an internal link which could emphasize relationship. Be consistent. So very important to try to use all lower cases. And another tip here, do not use underscores, always use hyphens. And never use empty spaces, because empty spaces, when browser automatically makes it %20, which again is not good. Google, you will not find too many pages like that with an underscore or empty spaces, though there are exceptions, but not many out there. Avoid foreign language encodings in the URL, so you should avoid those. As I said, this is what I've discussed before also, the how could you make your Ajax website crawlable. This is again from Google. If you go to Google developer section help guide, you will find this there. Crawl issue, these are some of the crawl issues which when we do it, when we are developing a page, these are some of the common crawl issues we find. For example, the same site is running on non-www, www/index.php, non-www.index.php, then there is another way, category, another page. So you see 4 ways of category, then /, then non-www category, non-www category, so /, just kind of a duplication. This is a very common way you could find these type of duplications. How could you solve this duplication? Let's say if you are using a PHP, then you are you use an Apache.htaccess rules to rewrite engines, and you can redirect. For example, if you want to redirect all your non-www requests to HTTP, this is the rewrite command you could save in a .htaccess file and upload in the root of your server. This is another one where we talked about the categories with which has a trailing slash. So if you use this rewrite command, you could use all the trailing slashes, will automatically redirect to the trailing slash. All the request without the trailing will forward to the trailing one. This is HTTPS. Sometimes another common way is when your website is running on both HTTP and HTTPS. So you could put rewrite engine on, and this is another way of putting all standard HTTP requests to HTTP version of the website. It's important to always use canonicals and duplicate, very, very important to use canonicals. So duplicate URLs can originate from various sources. So for example, when you use a social media marketing campaign, you could be using an email marketing campaign. So for example, a page one, this is just like you use a you are basically using a UTM source code. So this could be a problem with the canonicals. So very, very important when you have to use a canonical. So if you have a website page one, how you should use. Never use it as a related. Just don't use href is equal to page.html or page one. So absolute. So you should use absolute, the way the last one which is HTTPS www.website.com page1-html. This is how a canonical should be used. You should not use the way I talked about. Out of the 3 ways, it should be absolute all the time. This is important because most of the time people would use just a canonical without just a relative canonical rather than an absolute. Of course, use canonical wisely. Is primarily for index issue. It is not a fix for crawl base. Search engine need to see the canonical tag before they can act on it. So that means search engine will anyhow crawl them. Ergo pages need to be crawled before rel canonical has any effect. So basically the main page which needs to be crawled, and same with the no index pages. The pages needs to be crawled for that. So if the pages cannot be crawled, they still can have any issues. Another is the pagination. So pagination for massive crawl waste is especially for sorting. And so how could you have a pagination? So for example, you could show more products per pages. Use pagination on meta tag. So you could have a rel canonical where you could page as the next and previous on a page 2, page 3. And Google will deprioritize deeper paginated pages. So if you have 10 pages, Google will prioritize the 1. So in 1 to 10, 10 will be the least prioritized out of that. And of course, you can block sorting parameters in Robot. We do it all the time. You could disallow. Good thing is here you could use a wildcard to disallow all the pages. If you see towards the bottom of your screen, so you could disallow and no index. So if you see, interesting is we are disallowing and we are also telling Google to no index them. So that's something important. So just don't disallow, put no index as well. Of course, the risk of crawl waste and index inflation is huge. If you are having this type where you have different labels, the indexation will go down. So let's say this was a facet navigation. And how we can, so previously we did about just a pagination. Now how do you deal with this type of a navigation? Block facet URL parameters in Robot. It's important to disallow the attributes, disallow no index attributes. Tag facet link with rel no follow. So if you have, for example, if I go back to the page, you see here something called a silver, use costumes. So you should disallow these and should do a no follow. You don't want crawler to follow same page or by going to different URLs. Just to use, if you are using JavaScript, so hiding facet in JavaScript does not work because Google can execute JS and actually can follow embedded links. Don't block JavaScript and CSS in robots.txt ever, because as I discussed before, it's Google will start depreciating your website in the crawl and your pages, number of pages might decrease. Of course, JavaScript can add load time, which if you have too many of JavaScript, so fast load speed is crucial to get rankings. Another way is to use schemas. Structured data is very, very important to start using schemas. You could go to schema.org, which has all the guidelines on what all schemas are followed and what all schemas are there for different search engines. You can use a JSON LD markup, for example, separate from the body content. It's easier to implement. You can also use Google Tag Manager for this. Use GTM data layer macros to index JSON for this. And there is a link at the bottom where you can find how to do that. So this is another effective way to use Google Tag Manager. You could, after doing all this, you could just do a structured data testing here. So you will understand how to do that. And let's go a little bit into on-site optimization when it comes to content. So this was just a code thing. Now let's see in terms of page layout, how you could improve that. This is the optimized content. You can have just an example. If you see, this is just to share. So this page is geared towards engagement rings. So we put the URL as an engagement rings. The H1 has engagement rings, but not just word edge engagement ring, but it says engagement ring from your ring shop and everything. The copy has engagement ring, but if you see, interestingly, it's not the copy which starts with engagement ring. It's just in the middle of it. And then there is an image which we put up a diamond, and then we just say the engagement ring, not ring. So it's a singular. You could use an alt tag there. You could optimize and drop keywords like ring, other rings, engagement rings. You could use bullet optimization and image alt, and maybe if you have, you could put a video there of a ring or something you want to show a ring. So a ring, how to showing all the features of the ring. You can do that through it. And this is another way. You could have product snapshots on the top, customer reviews, and then you could have descriptions of the page. So this is another way to optimize the page. Very importantly, the title tag is the single most important on-site factor when it comes to the page. Of course, content has to be there and relevant to the title tag. it's important to include your chosen keywords within the title tag, preferably near the start of the tag, and try to keep it up to 70 characters, and they must be relevant to the page content. Very important, each page should have a different title tag, so it's not that the pages in the each page, as I spoke before, also had same title. Description tag, in the meta there are only two tags which are important. One is the title. The time people confusion meta keywords. Meta keywords are no longer relevant, no longer picked by Google or any other search engines, and you are just bloating the code. So we normally remove all the meta keywords because they are no longer valued. However, the meta description is important because the textual description is what the page is about and shows up in the Google search results. So if you have a good description, you have a chances of a high CTR, click-through rate. So that becomes important. Just to give you a tip on description tags, the keyword close to the include keywords close to the start of the tag, and don't repeat more than 3 times. Try to keep the meta description up to 150 characters. Must be relevant to the page content. Each page should have a different description tag. Body text. Google loves original high quality textual content. Body text is extremely important for search engine ranking because this is what human user comes to see. Keywords, synonyms, and variations of the primary keyword combination should be included in the body text, but not so that it reads artificially. It should read naturally. So you should not just stuff the keyword, but the algorithm is sophisticated enough to understand if there is an issue with the content. It can even see if the content quality is not good, there are grammatical problems, so you need to ensure that all these things are covered. Now let's see, there is another way you could use keywords in URL, as I spoke before. URL that contains keywords are better than those that don't, because they are user friendly, people could remember that, they rank better. So they are quite easy to do if your website is static, and little more difficult for database driven, but yes, you can do it. So let's say the good, for example, is mysite.com/health-insurance rather than mysite.com search ASP insurance ID. So the first one is better than the second one. Heading tag. Another important factor within the HTML is heading tag. They are used by search engines to determine page content. Use keyword in this text, but don't overdo it. Here is another one tip. When you use in heading tag, use it always in a sequence of H1, H2, H3. So you should never use is H1, H3, and H2. Second tip, it's not important to have all the H tags. So it's not important to have H1, H2, H3. You are fine if you are just having one H1. Link anchor text. The anchor text contains within the hyperlinks provide Google with an understanding of what the link content is about when the crawler visits it. So every hyperlink on your site should have descriptive anchor text. Rather than just saying clicking here, you could say that we offer a free white paper. You could give a link something like that which tells you about the inline links or a context. So basically declaring what the context of that particular page will be, maybe in a form of a keyword, is better than just saying click here. Image alt text. Alt is displays if the image doesn't load in the user browser. The alt tag should describe the image, so keep it short to the point, keep it relevant to the image, and do not stuff it. It can also have a positive effect on your website ranking if done properly. And as I said before, don't use alt text as a place to stuff keywords. Just to summarize here, the important thing, you should have a good site structure. The title tag should be right. The description should be good so that people can click on it. It should preferably start with the keyword you are optimizing that page for. Page copy should be focused on and should be contextually relevant, and of course build natural links. Now let's see some of the free tools which you could use. So there are some of these are 3 free and good, in fact great free tools for crawling and finding out some of the issues on your website. So this is one of my personal favorite, Screaming Frog. It works for free up to 500 pages. You could go to spinningfrog.co.uk/SEO Spider. It's available for $175 per year license. You can use it on unlimited computer. So if you need more data, you need to export all the data and do all those stuff, I would recommend you buying it there. So this is a paid, but yeah, for up to 500 pages works fine. There's another one, surprisingly comes from the Microsoft. It's called as IS SEO Toolkit. You could install it on your Windows machine. This is also a good tool to use. Best of all, it's available for free. And this is another Xenu, one of the old-time favorites, very old software we used to use way back in 2002-03. Zenu also gives you a lot of informations and something you can use here as well. Just to summarize do's and don'ts of the on-site, define your IA and determine canonical URL for hub pages across all major categories. Use breadcrumb style navigation. So for example, home, kitchen, appliances, stoves. Include relevant category specific navigation at each level. Make interlinking mandatory. So including content links to similar pages, as I spoke about an example from mobile to iPhone and laptop to Linux. So keep updated HTML site and XML sitemap. Very important. If you add more pages, either you should ensure your XML sitemap is either on an auto update or you are updating it manually. And learn all the ways to control indexation and link juice. So if there is a page which you don't want to get indexed, put a no follow or use a meta index, meta command or an HTTPS XHTTP header command to block it. And SEO don'ts. Let the same content appear on more than one URL. You should never do this. Just throw up a content without linking to it or linking from it. So no page should be orphaned and no page should only be getting links and not linking out. Spread your link juice thin over pages. So don't link to a page which doesn't have a content or have a thin content. And leave open-ended pages scripts like calendar. So always try to block them. Archive poorly or not at all without respect to your IA. Return server headers other than 404. Very common error. If you have a 404 page and somebody visits it, it actually takes you to the home page of a website. That should never be done. A 404 should serve a 404 code and never should be redirected to any other page. And think you can fix link juice. So you can distribution, you can start with the robot.txt if you want to block some of the sections. About the duplicate content, domain versus domain. So you should always ensure your website should only work on one version. You should not, same page or the home page should not open with domain.com, www.domain.com versus www.domain or domain/index. Category and product pages should be static, and where you have issues you should use canonicalization. Just to go into canonicalization quick checklist, no capital letters, special characters or spaces, always use dashes. Parameter and fine, but only variable order, useless variable order. Useless variables are taken care to also limit to 5 parameters. Use standard HTML tags. Session ID variable should likely be used in the canonical tag. Avoid code blotting, page visible content higher in the code. So don't just put the content because you want to put the content for the sake of it. Try to put content as much as higher in the code. Site speed matters now. So benchmark your page against the leader. So any pages which are coming in top, you could see why they are coming. You could see their page speed, and you can actually have a fun page speed contest. Why is my page slow? Or there are 5 pages which a page is faster than me. You can do so by installing Google Page Speed and a Yahoo Why Slow extension. You can run them on your home page and at least a few random internal pages. Follow every recommendation. Both of these tools gives nice recommendations. If you are a developer, you can do it yourself. If you want to share it with a developer who is going to do on your behalf, you can share it with them as well. And very important to follow every recommendations for image optimization, gzip, compression, JavaScript minification, CSS minification. Once this is low, you can look at a speed improvement they recommend. Moving to a stable cloud environment rather than just having a shared hosting is another way of doing it. You could use a CDN, which also helps in site speed. We have based stuff, you use CDN. And here are a couple of readings. So this is a very good web developer SEO cheat toolbar, which you can download the PDF. Then there is another SEO fundamental for web design. This is an interesting link which you could download. This presentation will be available on SlideShare, so you could use it. And this presentation, the last one, the SEO fundamental for web designer, is also something you can download or something you can read, though a little older, but not bad to start with. It has a lot of good information for web developers and designers. With that, I'll bring my session to an end, and I am now gonna open it for the Q&A, and Divya will be coordinating that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Navneet. Everyone, you can just type down your questions in the question panel on the right hand side. In the meantime, those who are interested in joining the digital marketing course at Digital Vidya, they can just fill out the poll here, and we'll take up all your questions in another minute. अब मैं आपको बताई थी कि ना मंडे को यही होगा मोस्ट प्रॉब्ली हम लोग मेट्रो से ट्रैवल करेंगे So Rajiv is looking for what's the difference between a JSS and JS and a CSS. So that's the basic questions which he have, and yeah,
Okay.
and others are
So I
typing in
answer
the
that.
question.
Yeah, I'll do that. JS is basically called as a JavaScript and the CSS is a style sheet. So when you see on your web page the colors and everything, you would see those are called as the style sheets. So the colors and everything and the fonts and everything is managed by the CSS, and rest all is managed by the JavaScript. So when you see a drop down and you see a page which a calendar, that's all is in JavaScript. A CSS is mainly for the design. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Next question is from Yuvraj. He is asking, I run an e-commerce website and have a low DA now. I have a lot of categories and products. I should optimize my link juice distribution.
If you have a low DA or which is called as a domain authority, something which is a tool because no longer the page rank is updated. So it becomes important for you in order to have a high DA. It's the internal linking is not the only criteria. It's fact it's not the criteria. You need more external links to increase your domain authority. Divya.
Thank you so much. Next question is from Dhruv. He's asking, any tips for e-commerce sites to target on a specific niche regarding SEO?
Pardon? To target?
Specific audience regarding SEO.
For the e-commerce?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so for the e-commerce, it's important to use schemas. Schemas are important if tool to optimize. So there are product schemas, there are rating schemas which you could use. So these are something you can do while targeting your SEO. So it helps a lot. So that's the only tip I would have for e-commerce. And of course, you could do a lot of submissions to product comparison sites. If you have a coupon, you could submit to coupon sites. So that's also going to help.
Thank you so much. Praful is asking, if I want to target 2 competitive keywords on one page, then is it possible to target only one keyword and get ranked for that particular page?
If you are only if you are trying to have two competitive keywords and not related to each other, just an example, if you are trying to optimize a page like let's say mobile, and you are trying to optimize another one for laptop, and you're trying to bring both on the same page, and only working for mobile as a keyword is not going to work. But if these both are related, so maybe you are trying to optimize for, let's say, mobile and an iPhone, then you can target on one page, and otherwise it's going to be very difficult to work with.
Okay. So another question is asking, I create a clean URL for our e-commerce website. So it's //product.php question mark ID is equal to 1, and there was another link which is /product/1, but Google says both the URLs are existent and created duplicate content issue. So how can a person fix that if it's such issue arise?
Yeah, if such issue arises, you could use canonical tag, as I spoke and I showed in the last part of my presentations. A canonical tag is an important way to tell Google which is your preferred version, and that should take care of the issue. Divya.
Okay. Another question from Kaushik. He's asking, how inline CSS optimization helps to rank my website?
See, what happens is when you put your inline CSS, it's actually a code which you are putting in the same page. So just assuming in a technical manner, if it's going to start the page, web page HTML starts with your head tag, then the body starts. And if your body, and then there is going to be a content, let's say on 300 line. And if you are putting an inline CSS, the header of the website, it's actually going to move your content from 300 line to maybe 400, 500. So lower the content on the page, the lesser important it looks to the search engine, and that's where it become a problem. So that's why it's important to have your CSS as much as possible external. Divya.
Thank you so much. Next question is from Vishal. Being a product manager, does he requires to know the art of SEO?
Yes, I would say SEO is important because it's important to understand that all your pages are crawlable and indexable, and they can be crawled by search engines, because eventually as a product manager you would be responsible for the products which people can actually find. So I won't say you need to be an expert in it, but just from a logical, is there a link which you can click and follow rather than a drop down or something? These type of things it's important to know as a product manager. Divya.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I believe we are done with the questions. If any one of you have some question, you can just drop an email to me. It's divya@digitalvidya.com. We'll take up your questions individually. And for the people who missed out the session or want the presentation, we'll send out the recording as well as presentation to you by Monday. So, oh, we missed one question, which is better, PHP or Apache, or PHP with ISS?
PHP with Apache is better. You can do because PHP with IS not be able to execute an HT file or redirections on that.
Thank you so much.
So that's something which is.
Great.
There are few more questions. Do you want me to take those as well? I can find them and I can read them for you guys.
I think we are done with the question. It's just one question is from. Okay, we are getting more questions. Yeah.
I could just read some of them. So for example, Ankita asked how many keywords are good to use in a meta keywords. As I said, meta keywords are no longer important. They are no longer have any weightage. So if you are just talking about how many keywords to use in a content of the page, it depends how longer your content is. But for every 100 word, you could use the content at the keyword once. Okay, so Kaushik Das asks how to reduce the load page if I have a site in which having a lot of JS structure. I spoke about it a bit in the middle of the presentations. This presentation will be online, Kaushik, and you can see how we could talk about the JS. Of course, the JS should be external as much as possible. That's something very important to help reduce the load time. Ankita asked, can I use same meta descriptions, little change descriptions on more than one page? Yes, you can. As I said, meta descriptions has nothing to do with the rankings. It's more to do with what people are going to read. So as long as, because no two pages will be found hopefully the same keyword, so you should be fine with that. But do ensure it's just not the one word. There are more than one word which it is optimized. Dini asked, does exact domain still count for SEO? No. Google came with a penalty for EMD, which is called as exact match domain. So you no longer found exact match domains. But saying that if you have an exact match domain with up to 1 or a 2 hyphen, yes, it still works. But more than 2 hyphens, gonna be tough. Okay, Vardankur Sinha asked, how can I optimize my website with less load time and good crawling with fancy design of templates available nowadays? So see, the best part is there are few tips here. You start using a CDN to load all your images and JavaScripts from, and of course you could use ensure your JavaScripts and CSS is external. These are only 2 tips I'll give to ensure that your site is optimized. Okay, Ramesh asked how many months it will take for a new launch website to rank in SERPs. Ramesh, it purely depends on how many pages you for which keywords. Are they keyword very competitive, lower competitive, how many volumes this has. But normally you see as SEO would at least take 4 to 5 months to start showing some results, and 6 months plus to start gaining some momentum. Praful asked what steps needs to follow if any page has been removed or deleted. If you have deleted or removed any page knowingly, you don't want it to come back, then a 404 is okay. But if you think you have removed a page or deleted and that page was having some internal links, then I would say do a 301 to a one level up. So if you deleted a phone page of iPhone, link 301 that page to the mobile section or the main mobile category. The Vardankur Sinha asked how much time should I invest on an average daily on my website to get good SEO juice over a couple of months and how to sustain that. It's more of the off page. You need to ensure that your website is, it depends actually how big your website. If you are running an e-commerce, you need to spend almost all your hours on this, but if you're running a 10-12 page, 1 hour or a couple of hours in a day, it would be more than enough. Kaushik Das asks, is image takes the page load size more? Yes, image, it does increases the page load size, but again it's loading externally, so more is the code which is internal, which can be an issue. Dhruv Patel asked on some suggestions on free resource to learn SEO. In the presentation, the last URL I've shared, that's good for developer designer. Otherwise, Dhruv, you can just Google it and type in Google, just Google SEO guide for Google and Google SEO guide, and you will find a SEO PDF which Google has provided for free. So you can download that PDF. That's a good start. Otherwise, Moz has a good set of tutorials you can learn SEO as well. I've answered most of his. Devender is asking if traffic is high on my site, can so we leave SEO things to follow? I not exactly got the question. I'm just assuming you were saying if the traffic is already okay, should you not do SEO? I mean, it's completely your call. I would say SEO is free traffic. If you could get some, who minds more extra traffic? Yuvraj asked, what would you recommend as a link building strategy for an e-commerce website? I would say product reviews. That's something which works good for e-commerce websites. Product submissions, reviews, and that's testimonials also. Videos, if you could find and put on them on different websites. Ankita asks, I have some pages which are not visible on my website, but they are on WordPress admin. Will Google crawl them also? No, it won't. Google will only crawl pages which are either in your XML or can be crawled through front end, unless somebody is linking them directly to the admin section. But I believe admin section is all password locked, so it shouldn't be a problem. Sachet asks, is WordPress better or have to code self? The only advantage with WordPress, Sachet, is that it's easier to maintain, and yes, Google crawls WordPress pages faster. So if you are building a smaller website, I would say a WordPress is better. Ramesh asks, what is the scope and career growth of SEO professional in 2016 and future? See, the SEO is still something which is very important. As I said, it brings the highest qualified traffic. So you have to understand that there is a good scope for SEO, but the SEO is just not limited to an off page or an on page. I would say if you think just like a content marketer, you need to get links or you need to get your content up on other website which has a high traffic. If you think SEO as a secondary and just think as a digital marketer which does specialize in SEO, there is a lot of growth options out there. Rohit asked, can we use CDN to deliver images on e-commerce site? Will that help? Yes, absolutely, that will help. It will increase your site speed, and that's going to help in rankings, and is also going to be good user experience. Okay, Rohit, I have answered that. Gopinath asked, you said 404 should not be customized. Wanted to know why, as most of us customize it. I didn't said that. What I said is 404 page should never go redirect. So let's say if I open your website and there is a 404 page, it should not go directly automatically redirect to your home page. You should have a separate 404 landing page, 404 page, which should be customized. They should absolutely not have a blank page. I would never recommend that. I would always say have it customized, put your site maps, whatever, just for a user's sake. It should not, the user should not get lost. I'll just take one quick question here. Devender asked, please explain schema.org, where and how to use it. I would say visit schema.org. You would understand most of this. And if you type schemas.org or if you type schemas in Google, you have a lot of tutorials in that. And okay, and Ankita asked, this is the final question. Google treats free WordPress website and paid WordPress website equally or differently? I would say equally. But if you are hosting it on WordPress, then it's not. If you are having a URL at a WordPress, but that doesn't work. If the best, Google treats the website which is self-hosted. So it's not gonna be on a Blogspot or a WordPress platform, because you know what, they both have some limitations, and unless you are running a blog, you won't get much value out of it. With that, I end my session. I have posted my email at the end of this, and also my Twitter handle. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask me. I'll be happy to help you out. And I'll put this back to Divya.
Thank you so much. So we'll wind up this session. You can just drop an email with your questions. We'll take up directly. Thank you so much, Navneet, for your time. We love to have you again for another webinar.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.